The humans tore off their environment suits, plunging naked into the inky depths of Aqua Prime, as the Ktarian delegation gaped in shock, faces pressed to the viewport. Impossible! These primitive apes couldn't possibly survive without... Izar paused the holovid, the ghostly light from the frozen image illuminating his wizened features in the dimly lit classroom. This, young ones, is where our people's perception of humans changed forever. Izar's voice carried the weight of centuries as he addressed the wide-eyed Ktarian students. We thought them weak, laughably primitive compared to our sleek, amphibious perfection. Our dismissal was our folly. Izar's webbed hand swept over the holovid controls, conjuring a star map. Aqua Prime, a water world on the fringes of Ktarian space. 50 humans, the first Terran Exploration Corps colony beyond their home system, trapped in ungainly environment suits, floundering under the weight of their own technology. Or so we thought. The ancient historian leaned forward, his gills flaring. The Ktarian High Council, in their infinite wisdom, saw an opportunity. A new client, raced to be guided by our superior intellect and technology. They dispatched Ambassador Zaktar to establish contact, to assert our dominance over these land-dwelling primitives. But we underestimated them, gravely. Izar's eyes glinted in the darkness, his tone grave. In our arrogance, we failed to see the truth. The suits were not a crutch, but a choice, a test of their resolve, their adaptability. And when they cast them aside, revealing their true strength, we were left with no choice but to confront the consequences of our hubris. He turned back to the holovid, the image of the naked humans swimming effortlessly, defiantly, amid the shocked Ktarians. This, my young students, is the story of how a single act of human audacity shattered an empire's delusions of superiority. A lesson hard-learned and never forgotten. Izar's voice grew more animated as he continued his tale. Ambassador Zaktar and his delegation entered the central chamber of the human habitat, expecting to find the Terrans struggling in their cumbersome environmental suits. Instead, they were greeted by Commander Tyler Jackson, standing tall and unencumbered, breathing the liquid environment as easily as the Ktarians breathed water. The ancient historian's eyes sparkled with mirth. The look on Zaktar's face was one of utter disbelief. He spoke through the universal translator, his voice tinged with a mix of curiosity and condescension. "Commander Jackson, how is it that you survive in this water-filled room without your protective gear?" Izar leaned back, his webbed hands clasped together. Jackson's response was calm and confident. He explained that the habitat's interior was filled with a breathable liquid called perfluorocarbon, a substance that allowed humans to live and work underwater without the need for bulky suits. The Terran commander's words were met with a stunned silence from the Ktarian delegation. The historian's tone grew somber. I could see the unease growing in the eyes of the Ktarians as they realized that humans were far more adaptable than they had previously believed. Their assumptions about human frailty were crumbling before their very eyes. Izar's gaze swept over the classroom, his voice taking on a note of irony. But Ambassador Zaktar was not one to admit defeat so easily. In a bold attempt to reassert Ktarian superiority, he challenged Commander Jackson to a swimming contest in the open waters surrounding the habitat. The ancient Ktarian's lips curled into a smile. To the surprise of the delegation, Jackson readily accepted the challenge. He donned a sleek, form-fitting swimsuit made of advanced materials that enhanced his speed and endurance. The stage was set for a confrontation that would forever alter the course of Ktarian-human relations. Izar paused, his eyes twinkling as he surveyed the room. The Ktarian students leaned forward in their seats, their eyes wide with anticipation, eager to hear about their species' triumph over the seemingly inferior humans. Izar's eyes glinted as he recounted the details of the swimming contest. Zaktar's powerful limbs churned the crystal-clear waters of Aqua Prime, propelling him forward with a grace that seemed to mock the human's efforts. But as the race wore on, Jackson's genetically enhanced body and advanced swimsuit began to close the gap. The Ktarian students watched in rapt attention as Izar described the final moments of the race, their eyes widening as he revealed Jackson's burst of speed that carried him past the flagging ambassador. Zaktar was not one to accept defeat graciously, Izar said, his voice tinged with amusement. He demanded a rematch, this time in the crushing depths of the planet's abyssal trenches, a place where even our kind must take care, lest the pressure reduce us to pulp. The students murmured amongst themselves, some casting doubtful looks at the image of the human commander. Izar raised a webbed hand for silence. Commander Jackson accepted the challenge without hesitation, he said. And so the two descended into the abyss, their bodies subjected to a darkness and pressure that would have crushed an ordinary human. But Jackson was no ordinary human. Izar's voice took on a note of grudging respect as he described the advanced technology that protected Jackson from the depths. His swimsuit, a marvel of Terran engineering, adjusted its density and flexibility to counter the crushing pressure. A heads-up display provided navigation and monitored his vital signs, allowing him to navigate the treacherous currents with ease. The Qatarian students exchanged glances of disbelief and growing unease. Izar leaned forward, his ancient eyes gleaming in the dim light. And so the race continued, deeper and deeper into the abyss. Zaktar, born to these depths, surged ahead, his body built to withstand the pressure. But Jackson, with his technology and unyielding determination, refused to be left behind. The students leaned forward in their seats, their hearts pounding as they wondered if the human would once again prove victorious. Izar paused, letting the tension build, before finally speaking. In the end, it was not Zaktar's natural advantages that determined the outcome, but Jackson's unwavering resolve. The human commander pushed himself to the very limits of his endurance, his suit straining against the immense pressure, but he would not yield. Izar's voice grew hushed as he described the final moments of the race, the two figures hurtling through the darkness, locked in a battle of wills as much as a contest of speed. The students held their breath, their eyes fixed on the ancient historian, as they waited to hear the outcome. Jackson's hand touched the seafloor mere seconds before Zaktar's, Izar said, his voice heavy with the weight of history. And in that moment, the balance of power between our species shifted forever. We had underestimated the humans, dismissing them as weak and inferior. But in the depths of Aqua Prime, Commander Jackson showed us the true measure of human strength. The Qatarian students exchanged worried glances as Izar described Jackson and Zaktar's descent into the abyssal trenches. The historian's voice grew grave. In the crushing depths, an ancient terror awaited them. A massive, bioluminescent beast, known as the Kraken, its tentacles writhing in the darkness, its razor-sharp beak gleaming. Izar's webbed hands clenched. The Kraken struck without warning, its tentacles lashing out at the two rivals. Zaktar, his instincts overwhelming his pride, attempted to flee, his powerful limbs propelling him through the inky water. The students leaned forward, their eyes wide. Izar's voice rose. But Jackson stood his ground, activating a sonic emitter built into his suit. A focused beam of high-frequency sound waves burst forth, disorienting the creature. The Kraken recoiled, its tentacles flailing before retreating into the depths. Izar paused, letting the moment sink in. Zaktar, amazed by Jackson's bravery and technology, begrudgingly acknowledged the human's skill. In the face of this shared threat, their rivalry faded. They knew they must work together to survive the treacherous abyss. The historian's tone grew reflective. And so the human and Qatarian navigated the depths side by side, their combined knowledge and abilities guiding them through the challenges of the abyssal environment. Jackson's advanced suit and Zaktar's natural adaptations proved a formidable combination. Izar leaned forward, his ancient eyes gleaming. This moment, my young students, marked the beginning of a new era, an era of cooperation and mutual respect between our species. The Kraken's attack had shown that even the mightiest among us could not stand alone against the dangers of the deep. The Qatarian students murmured amongst themselves, their perceptions shifting. Izar raised a webbed hand, his voice growing stronger. From this point forward, Zaktar and Jackson worked together, not as rivals, but as allies. They mapped the abyssal trenches, cataloguing the wonders and horrors that lurked in the depths. Izar's gaze swept over the classroom, his tone heavy with the weight of history. Their partnership, forged in the crucible of the abyss, would go on to shape the future of our two species, a future of exploration, discovery, and shared purpose. The historian paused, his eyes distant as if seeing into the past. But their journey was far from over. The depths held many more challenges, and the true nature of their alliance was yet to be tested. For in the darkness of the abyss, secrets long hidden were about to be revealed. Izar's voice grew heavy as he recounted the tragic aftermath of the human-Qatarian collaboration. Commander Jackson and Ambassador Zakhtar, having forged an unlikely bond in the depths of Aqua Prime, returned to the surface, their spirits buoyed by the prospect of a new era of cooperation between their species. But as they emerged from the depths, their joy turned to horror. The ancient historian's eyes closed for a moment, as if the weight of the memory was almost too much to bear. The human habitat, once a shining beacon of Terran ingenuity and resilience, lay in ruins, torn asunder by the fierce weapons of a massive Qatarian warship. Debris floated in the water, a grim testament to the destruction wrought upon the unsuspecting humans. Izar's voice rose, echoing the anger and confusion that must have gripped Jackson in that moment. The human commander, his eyes wide with disbelief and rage, turned to Zakhtar, demanding an explanation. The ambassador, equally shocked and dismayed, could offer none. With trembling hands, he contacted his superiors, desperate for answers. The historian's tone grew bitter as he relayed the response. The Qatarian High Council, in their infinite wisdom, had deemed the humans a threat to their dominance. They feared the adaptability and technological prowess demonstrated by Jackson and his people, and so they had decided to eradicate the human presence on Aqua Prime, without warning or mercy. Izar's fists clenched as he described Jackson's desperate attempt to save his people. The human commander, his heart filled with a fierce determination, boarded a small, heavily armed submersible. Armed with advanced human weaponry, he confronted the Qatarian warship head-on, a lone warrior against a mighty foe. The Qatarian students leaned forward, their eyes wide as Izar painted a vivid picture of the battle. Jackson fought with a skill and courage that belied his species' relative youth on the galactic stage. His weapons, honed by human ingenuity, struck at the warship's defenses, seeking to cripple the behemoth that had so callously destroyed his people's home. Izar's voice grew strained as he recounted the turning point of the battle. But for all his bravery and technological prowess, Jackson was ultimately overwhelmed by the superior firepower of the Qatarian vessel. His submersible, battered and broken, began to succumb to the immense pressure of the depths. The historian's gaze turned to Zakhtar's role in the conflict. The Qatarian ambassador, torn between his loyalty to his species and his newfound respect for the humans, faced a choice that would define his very being. In that moment, he chose to stand with Jackson, to aid the human in his valiant fight against the injustice wrought by the High Council. Izar's voice grew quiet, heavy with the weight of the sacrifice. Together, the human and the Qatarian managed to cripple the warship, their combined efforts and shared determination a force to be reckoned with. But their victory came at a great cost. As the warship's weapons fell silent, Jackson and Zakhtar lay gravely wounded in the wreckage of their submersible, their lifeblood mingling with the cold, dark waters of Aqua Prime. The ancient historian's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he described the final moments of the two warriors. In those last, fleeting moments, Jackson and Zakhtar shared a look of understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had forged in the face of adversity. They had seen the potential for friendship and cooperation between their species, a glimmer of hope in a galaxy too often divided by fear and mistrust. Izar's voice grew heavy with sorrow as he brought the tale to its somber conclusion. The Qatarian High Council, in a misguided attempt to cover up the incident, erased all records of the encounter, burying the truth of Jackson and Zakhtar's sacrifice beneath a veil of secrecy. They forbade any further contact with the humans, leaving the fate of the Terran Exploration Corps a mystery to all but a select few. As the historian fell silent, the weight of the story settled upon the young Katarians like a shroud. They sat motionless, their minds grappling with the consequences of their species' actions and the true nature of the mysterious and resilient humans. In the stillness of the classroom, a single question hung in the air, unspoken yet deafening in its implication. What might have been had the High Council chosen a different path? You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.